Hey, thank you guys for coming so much. I'm sorry about the camera situation, but we're gonna just try and do the best we can with what we got. So, I'm gonna tell you a story of my great-great-grandfather. His name is Olis Johnson. Olis and his family lived in Norway. Olis was the oldest of 8 children, and he lived with his parents. He was such a dedicated boy, and he was so helpful to his family. So when he was old enough, he decided that he was going to go out and get a job to help support his family. His family ran a farm at home, but he decided that he was going to go be a sailor on the sea. And one day he became into a captain of a merchant ship. He gave so much to his family, and his family were so grateful for him. One day his father, while Olis was out at sea, went into town to get some things for the family. While his father was there, he ran into 2 Mormon missionaries. These missionaries were Mormon missionaries, and they wanted to preach their gospel to Olis's father. Olis's father listened, and he believed the words which they were saying. He thought that they were true, and he felt them in his heart, and he knew that he and his family would have to join this religion and make many sacrifices. He was scared to go home that night, though, to tell his wife, because he thought his wife would think he was crazy for, even thinking about this. But he went home that night and told his wife, and his wife said, "I've been searching for something like this. We need a belief in God," and she felt like this was the right thing to do. So they went and talked to all their kids, and their kids, they supported their parents, and they knew that they would have to do this and make the trek westward for their religious beliefs. Olis was the last to know of this, and I think he was very hesitant at first because he felt like, these are just 2 men from London, England. How do they really know what God wants them to do? But he went out into his farm, and he thought about it for a very long time, and he felt like the words that his parents had felt, that it was the truth, and that he was going to support them in what they did. So the next day they sold all their possessions, and they made the trek westward to the American continent on a boat. So they came from Norway to America, and they stopped off in New York. They got on a train and made their way westward to St. Louis, Missouri. When they got to Missouri, they didn't know what a hard trek they had ahead of them. They would have to walk on their feet. And in Olis's journal, it talks about the trying, terrible weather that they experienced. They experienced rain and snow, and it was so hard, and they had to keep going and going and going because they knew that the words that they heard were true. And so they continued on their journey, walking and walking and walking through sunlight and snow and rain and hell and every kind of weather you could have ever think of that was treacherous on their bodies. Their mom, Olis's mom, one day got very, very sick, and they thought they were going to lose her. This devastated the family, and they wanted to stop their journey, but their father had so much faith in this religion that they knew they had to keep going. So they put the mother in the back of the wagon. Olis and his father and a couple of the brothers pulled the hand carts. They got so exhausted one night, though, and Olis just went out and pleaded with God, "Please, please help my mother to get better. If you do this, I promise I will help everyone." And so miracles do happen because Olis's mother, a few days later, regained her health. And they were so happy. Olis knew that was a miracle, and it came from God. So he decided that he was going to spend the rest of his time, serving others. And so every night he would go check at different camps to make sure that people were okay. One night, though, he came to this camp, and he saw the most beautiful girl he'd ever seen before. She had long blonde hair and bright blue eyes, and he knew that he had to get to know her because she was so beautiful. It was almost like love at first sight. So he walked over there, and as they began to talk, they found out that they had both come from Norway on the exact same ship, and then they took the exact same train from New York to St. Louis, same trip and all. To me, this is this is kind of a cute love story because it shows me that there really is a specific time for things to happen, and somebody's taking care of that. They finally made it to Salt Lake, and they were 40 miles out of Salt Lake, and Oldest decided to propose to this lovely lady. Her name was Annie Wilhelmina, and so they were engaged, and the night before they made it to Salt Lake City, they got married. They finally made it to Salt Lake City. His mother was alive, and it was a miracle that that would happen. I'm so grateful that my ancestors did this for me, because I definitely could not go through the tribulation they went through, with especially all the weather. I would be trying and Tetris, and I just don't know if I could do it. But I'm glad that I have the religious freedoms as I do because of these people. And Oldest then went on to be married and be strong in the gospel of Jesus Christ. And they had many children, which were also raised in the gospel. And he became a woodworker. And hopefully they lived happily ever after. The end.